I've just come back from a meditation retreat in which I spent 10 days in complete silence meditating for 11 hours every day, with no talking, no eye contact, no writing or reading, no phone or any distractions, just you versus your mind. And honestly, this was a profound experience and not what I expected at all. So I have split this video into two sections. For the first section, I'm going to talk a bit about what is this 10-day course, what is the timetable and rules, and for the second section, I'm going to talk about my experience, how I found it, and what were some of the key takeaways I took from this. And so this 10-day course is called Vipassana, and it's run by a donation-based organization called Dhamma, which holds these courses in most countries. And Vipassana is a specific meditation technique that was rediscovered and taught by the Buddha in India, and it is all about the mind and body connection. This is not a religious course. This course is just designed to teach anybody this specific meditation technique. And so this was the strict timetable every day for 10 days. 4 a.m. wake up. 4:30 a.m. until 6:30 a.m. meditate in the hall or in your room. 6:30 a.m. until 8 is breakfast. Then 8 till 9 is a group meditation in the hall. Then 9 till 11, meditate in the hall or in your room. At 11 o'clock until 1 is lunch. You have some time to rest or you can have an interview with the teacher. Then 1 p.m. until 2:30 is meditate in the hall or in your room. From 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. is group meditation. From 3:30 till 5, meditate in the hall or in your room. At 5 p.m. you can have a piece of fruit and some tea. 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. group meditation. At 7 p.m. until 8 is the teacher's discourse, 8 p.m. until 9 p.m. group meditation, and then 9 p.m. bedtime. And so as you can imagine, looking at this intense timetable, I was pretty nervous to go into this. The most I had ever meditated before was like an hour, and so I had no idea what to expect. Other rules were that men and women were kept completely separated, so men had their own facilities and we had our own. You also had to be in complete silence for the 10 days, no talking. You were only allowed to talk to the teachers by requesting an interview if you wanted to get some clarity on the technique. You were not allowed to do any writing or reading, and there was a gong that transitioned you from each stage of the timetable so that no one had to talk. You just hear the gong and then you know it's time to move on to the next section. And so the whole environment really is intentionally created to decrease as many distractions as possible, and it really does feel like just you and your mind. And so, okay, how did I find this experience? Well, before we get into it, I just want to quickly say that everything I'm sharing is from my own personal experience and my own understanding of the technique. I don't claim to be an expert on Vipassana, and I certainly don't know everything about it. So if I get anything wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments, but I'm just explaining from my own understanding. But I've been back out now for 6 days, and I'm honestly still finding it hard to find the right words to describe this experience to somebody else. I learned so much in such a short space of time, and I had so many insights that I think my brain is still processing things, and it's hard to find the right words to do it all justice. But let's start at the beginning, day 1 to day 3. So at first, you learn this meditation technique called Anapana, and this is where you focus on your breath's nostrils coming in and out of your nose. And this is to help quiet your mind and get your mind focused, ready for when you learn Vipassana on day 4, which is the main technique. And honestly, for the first 3 days, I feel like I learned so much about myself. It really feels like you just have a microscope on your mind and you are just observing everything that is happening. There is no running away from yourself, and when you are sat there 11 hours of the day observing yourself, you really do go so deep within. You see things that you wouldn't have seen before, and you just get such a clear perspective of your inner world. And it's funny because objectively speaking, if someone was to just look at me, they would have just seen me wrapped up in a blanket and sat down all day, and it looks like I'm not doing anything, like I'm just sat there. But in here, you're in the mental gym, and meditation is hard work. You are constantly working the technique, and every time your mind wanders, you bring it back to the breath. It wanders, you bring it back. It wanders, you bring it back. It's literally the equivalent of doing push-ups in the gym. So for the first few days, it is really hard to focus because you've just come in from the outside world where it's so busy and stressful and so many distractions going on, and so the mind is quite frantic. And I found it so interesting to just be the witness to my mind's thought patterns and see how distracted it was. I would literally be focused on my breath for 2 seconds and then my mind would be like,
Heather, when are you getting a boyfriend? Yeah, what's the plan? What's the plan with that? What are you going to do? And then be
oh, focus on the breath. Focus on the breath. Then I'd get back into it. I'm focused. Oh my God, Heather, that thing you did 2 years ago is so embarrassing. You are so embarrassing. But oh my God, focus on the breath. Focus on the breath. Oh my God, you would be really good right now. It's some pizza. Some pizza with some ice cream. Peanut butter ice cream. Focus on the breath. Focus on the breath. Honestly, it is such hard work. You are learning how to tame and train this wild animal inside of you. And so you have to constantly be diligent, consistent, and patient. And I just found it so eye-opening to truly see just how deluded the mind is. How many stories it creates about people or things that are happening in your life. It is constantly in the past, thinking about a memory, or constantly in the future, thinking about when is this going to happen, or when is that going to happen, making up scenarios. And the one place it never wants to be is in the only true reality we have, which is right now in the present. And so in a way, the mind is constantly living in a state of illusion. It is constantly living in a make-believe world, and it was so interesting to witness this on like much more of a deeper level than I ever have before. But as much as it was hard work, I was actually very pleasantly surprised by how much I was enjoying the process. And overall, I actually found the first 6 days to be quite peaceful, and time actually passed quite quickly. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong, it was hard to focus, but I really enjoyed learning about the technique. I feel like I gained so much value from observing myself, and I am someone who is already comfortable to be alone and sit in silence or sit with my emotions. And so I felt like I was enjoying the process and enjoying the quietness. But the one thing that was very intense from the first few days was the pain. And honestly, this was the big thing that I was most nervous for before going into this course. Because sitting cross-legged for 11 hours of the day, it hurts. I literally felt like an old lady every day. My shoulder hurt, my back hurt, my legs hurt. When I went to bed at night, I was in pain. And when I woke up in the morning, I was still in pain. And so that really wasn't enjoyable. But interestingly enough, this turned around in a very unexpected way. And so on day 4, you learn Vipassana, which is the main technique. And to put it very simply, Vipassana is all about teaching you how to observe your body's sensations objectively. So the Buddha discovered that before your mind reacts to something, there is first a sensation on the body, and then the mind will react based on its past conditioning. And so let's say, for example, someone comes up to you on the street and they start shouting words of abuse at you. The first thing that will happen is that you will feel a sensation on the body, and then your mind will perceive this sensation as either pleasant or unpleasant. And once it perceives this as pleasant or unpleasant, it then goes into reaction mode. If a sensation is judged as pleasant, we then crave it. If it is judged as unpleasant, we then resist it. And so let's take the example that someone starts shouting at us and immediately we feel like this is unpleasant. Without even having time to think, we've started reacting back, maybe getting angry at them, maybe shouting back. But without us being aware of it, before we reacted, there was first a sensation on the body. And so what Vipassana does is that it teaches you how to objectively observe your body's sensations without labeling them pleasant or unpleasant, but instead noticing them as they are and observing how they change. And so what happens is when you commit to doing Vipassana over time, you then begin to rewire the deep-rooted habit patterns of the mind, shifting from a place of constantly reacting to everything instead to a place of awareness and calmness. Over time, this daily practice helps your mind to stop perceiving situations as strictly pleasant or unpleasant, and as a result you become less reactive to situations in your life and your mind becomes more balanced and at peace. Just think about how many times we unintentionally react to a situation and we make it so much worse. Our reaction often causes us even more suffering. Maybe we lash out in anger and hurt somebody with our actions or our words. Maybe we turn to addictions like food or alcohol to avoid our feelings. Or we might avoid people and avoid social situations because we have a fear of judgment from others. And so Vipassana teaches you how to break the deep-rooted habit of reacting to everything, and instead you learn to observe the body's sensations objectively, which then in turn transforms your mind's perceptions of experiences, allowing you to then respond with greater awareness and balance. And honestly, I had such a mind-blowing experience because on day 5, I was in pain from meditating all the time. Like all my body hurt. And I was literally like changing positions every 20 minutes or half an hour to try and get away from the pain. But I had been practicing the technique and I was observing my body's sensations objectively. And then I had this big shift where it felt like all of the pain that I was feeling just disappeared. Like all of the pain from the past 5 days that was really bothering me and that I kept changing positions because of, I stopped feeling it as pain and I started to just view it as a sensation. And then I was able to sit completely still for like an hour and a half because my mind had stopped perceiving this as something unpleasant and so it stopped reacting to it. Honestly, it was crazy. It was so weird. And that's when I was like, okay, this technique works because I'm literally experiencing it firsthand. And this technique is science, by the way, of how the mind and the body work together. This isn't like some woo-woo stuff where you're meditating and getting like some supernatural powers. I think sometimes meditation can get such a bad reputation. There's so much misrepresentation or misinformation, and so many people think it's like someone is trying to become this big god and they are floating above a cloud and looking down at everybody else thinking, I'm so much better than you. Or people think it's like you're trying to enter this different universe, the eighth dimension, and escape from true reality. But in my eyes, that's not what meditation is about. Meditation is all about gaining mastery over your own mind. The mind that is causing you so much suffering. The mind that is constantly controlling you, making you react in ways that you don't understand. The mind that you keep trying to escape from by turning to addictions like your phone or alcohol. The mind that convinces you that there is something wrong with you, that you are not worthy, that no one likes you. The mind that literally shapes your life in every single way. And meditation is the technique that allows you to realize that you are not your thoughts. Instead of believing every thought you have, you become the observer. It teaches you to see reality as it truly is, free from the mind's constant illusions, the stories it constantly creates, and the false beliefs that it constantly clings to. To me, this is some of the most important work that anybody could ever do, because the quality of your state of mind determines the quality of your life. Why is it that two people can go through the exact same experience and yet one ends up miserable and the other ends up happy? It's because the situation itself is not the real problem. It's their reaction and perception of the situation, both which stems from the mind. And so if we don't take the time to care for and train our minds, it will totally control us. Instead of mastering it, you become a slave to it, constantly reacting to things without awareness. And on day 7, this happened to me, and it was funny to witness the whole thing play out. But I was really deep into a meditation session. I felt like I was having a good focus session, and then the bell rang to move on to the next session. But I knew that the bell wasn't supposed to ring for another 45 minutes, and they usually always tell us if there is a change in the timetable. And so I was a bit confused as to why the bell rang. I came out of the meditation hall and took a bit of a break. And then after some time of waiting around, I realized that everyone was still meditating. And so I started getting really confused. I was like, the teachers are usually always on time. Why did it ring? And why did they pull me out of the session? And then I had a thought of maybe it was a student and maybe someone else rang the bell. And then I started feeling annoyed because I was like, I was in such a good session and someone just randomly pulled me out of this session for no reason. And my mind started making up this whole story. I started thinking about one of the women that I had seen there that seemed to be annoying the staff. She kept kind of talking a bit. And I was thinking to myself, I bet you it was her. Maybe she was playing a prank. And so I go back into the meditation hall. I've got 30 minutes left on my session and I'm just like, Heather, just let it go. Let's just focus again. Yeah, that didn't happen. I could not let it go. I was feeling so angry. I kept thinking to myself, why did that woman ring the bell? I literally was like, it's so disrespectful. I need to find the teacher and talk to her because this can't happen again. This can't happen. And I know it sounds so stupid, but I couldn't stop reacting. I was making up this whole story in my head about this poor woman. I don't even know if she rang the bell, but my mind believed it. And I just sat there for the rest of the session feeling angry and annoyed, all because of this imaginary story that I made up. And I just thought of how often do we do this in everyday life? Maybe you're at work and somebody seems a bit off with you and you start thinking to yourself, oh, they don't like me because of X, Y, and Z. And then you spend the day overthinking it, feeling sad about it, feeling bad about it, picking out your flaws or what's wrong with you, when in reality it might not even be true. Maybe they're just having a bad day because they're going through a hard time. But our minds feed us this whole illusion which we believe to be true, and so we react to it and it dictates our whole experience. It's literally crazy. You can't trust the mind. And that's why I think meditation is so important, because if you are not aware of your own mind and the tricks that it's constantly playing on you, it will continue to rule your life. But anyway, for me, day 9 was definitely the hardest, which I think is a little bit weird because I think most people's experience is that the first few days are the hardest and the last few days are the best. But I had the completely opposite experience. I think because at the start of the week I was really enjoying the process, which I really didn't expect to happen. I then started clinging to this expectation that every day it was only going to get better and better and better, and by the end of the day I was going to feel so elevated and so good. And that's obviously not how reality works or how this process works. And so because I started to struggle with focusing on the technique of it, I started to then react and get angry at myself, which is exactly what you're not supposed to do, but of course I did that. And so for me, I found the last 3 days to be harder, and I started to count down the days and the hours until the end of the course. I just started to feel a bit burnt out and done, but I knew I wasn't going to leave. There was never any thoughts of leaving, but let's just say I was happy when the final day came. And on the 10th day, it really was so strange to speak again. When I said hello, I was like forgot what I sounded like, and I found it kind of overwhelming. I think I didn't actually realize how deep within myself I went until we started speaking again, because then I was like, oh my god, this is like so much is happening right now. And honestly, the first 2 days when I came out, it felt really weird. Everything felt a bit surreal. It was like trying to adjust to normal life again. But overall, I'm so glad I did this experience. I feel like I learned so much from it. There's so many things I couldn't include in here. I couldn't have possibly included everything I learned. And I 100% would love to do it again, maybe later this year, maybe next year, as I firsthand experienced the benefits of it, and I was just really grateful for this opportunity. The organization who holds the course are honestly so amazing. It's all donation based. Everyone working there, the managers, the teachers, they're all volunteers. They don't get any money. All the food you receive and accommodation is donated from previous attendees of the course. And so they really make this course accessible for anybody who is willing to do the work necessary to learn this technique. It might not be for everybody, but in my experience, I would really recommend Vipassana. I was so nervous going in, as I felt so unprepared. I was only doing 20 minutes of meditation per day. But honestly, nothing is going to prepare you for meditating 11 hours of the day. It really is just diving into the deep end. But if you go in with a willing and committed mindset that you are ready to do the work necessary, and you are determined and open to the process, then you will be fine. I have left the organization's link in the description below so you can check them out. And thank you for watching the video. All the best.